Hey, what's up, y'all? Here we go. We are starting a new ride this time. This one is going to be, right now, I've not decided on a name for it, so we're just going with Riverside Coaster, Riverbank Coaster, because this is going to be located on the edge of a riverbank. And the impetus for this ride was a dream I had, actually. I dreamed that a friend of mine and I were going to ride a roller coaster at Idlewild Park in Pennsylvania, but somehow it had morphed into this ride. And it was pretty rare, for me anyway, to actually get to ride a coaster in a dream and remember it fairly well. But I do remember this one very distinctly. I remember the setting. I remember the overall layout, the flow and feel of the layout without actually knowing exactly what it did every single time. So decided to go ahead and do it because it seemed pretty cool in the dream. And the first thing the ride started with was a turn out of the station to the right, and there'll be sort of a walkway right there where people will be able to see everything, and then it goes into a concrete tunnel. And the reason for that tunnel was because the ride dropped into a sort of large underground concrete space. Very, very odd, but I remember distinctly the airtime that I felt going down the drop and being underground. So I started thinking about it. I thought, why in the world would there be this sort of underground concrete bunker, I guess, because that's eventually what I decided. Well, I guess it might be some kind of leftover bunker. Maybe there was something that was built years ago for some purpose or another, who knows. In the park, bought this land and found this bunker here and decided to use it to their advantage. So the first part of this ride is going to drop into that bunker. I'll actually create that in 3D modeling. I'll create the concrete bunker, and I'll do my usual job of doing the landscaping and so forth. So this is going to turn out pretty cool, I think. I'm basing it, the landscape will be based on where I was born in West Virginia, so it'll look very familiar to me, something I should be able to do well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this turns out. Most likely this will be a PTC. I'll be using the PTC trains most likely. 5 cars probably, because it just seems like that type of ride to me. It's going to be sort of buried in the woods, which is something I always love. 5-car PTC, except for the one problem I have with that is you'll see here as we start to do this upper section, because the ride is supposed to, the lower part where it comes out of the tunnel and goes around the curve is supposed to be sort of on the riverbank, and then it goes up a lift hill on the mountainside, sort of something similar to a Boulder Dash or something like that, and then it kind of bounces around up here before it actually drops back down to the riverbank and where the main portion of the ride goes on. So what happens up here is it's fairly tight, just because that's not a very big drop, and it's getting a lot of forces. So some of the curvatures and so forth are fairly tight, meaning that I may need to use, just for realism's sake, I may need to use the GCI trains. I'll take a look at it and see once I actually get it up and running what it looks like, and if I need to do that, I'll do that. So one of the things you see me doing here with the green bar at the bottom, if you see the green graph, this is really the first time I've ever done any kind of laterals, use the lateral graphs at all in FVD. It was a little bit more complicated than I was expecting. Not complicated, but it just took me a minute or two to get the hang of it, and how the lats work and so forth. I mean, obviously I understand how lats work, but just actually incorporating them into a design was something new for me. Even when I've made woodies in the past, I've tended to not do a lot of laterals, but laterals are fun, I think. I really enjoy laterals on a coaster. For example, I love the Thunderbolt at Kennywood. And I know that modern designer, even GCI is not one of my favorite wooden coaster designers. I tend to prefer Gravity Group or CCI, but they all use lats to an extent. So if I'm making a woody, that's certainly an integral part of a woody, so I'm just going to go ahead and give it a try. So you see the first effort I made was sort of making a kind of a horseshoe fan curve at the top. It's got, I believe, about 0.7 or so lats. And then we just kind of swoop around up at the top a little bit, and then we have a drop down the hillside and towards the river. And once we get to the bottom of this, we're going to put some more lats in. One of the things I did do on this drop, I prefer generally long straight drops over curved drops. In terms of curve, I mean like a GCI curve drop. I just don't find them as fun. But what I do really like these kind of drops like this that just sort of meander off to the side a little bit. Like maybe think of the first drop on the Grizzly or something like that. I like those kind of drops just because, especially if there's airtime, it's just a little bit unsettling to be falling in a natural or an unnatural kind of wig, because you're falling and also being tossed to the side a little bit. And I really like that sensation quite a bit. So we have the coaster bouncing over the lift hill and dropping down, which gives you a very nice view of the what I'm terming the first drop, even though that's not the first drop. As you go up the lift hill, as you ascend the lift hill, you get a really nice view of that. And then I'm thinking from here on out, this is the main part of the ride that I remember from the dream I had. So I'm thinking from here on out, we're going to go with a slight out and back. We're going to dip back into the underground bunker at one point. This part is actually going over going under, an old steel bridge. Here you'll see I'm working with the laterals again, and this was actually fun to do. I really like these low flat turns like this, like you'll find on the Thunderbolt at Kennywood, and a lot of old coasters had things like this. I can think of quite a few examples of older rides that had a flat section like this that were lots of lats. So I went ahead and incorporated that as well, because even though this is supposed to be a new ride, it's supposed to also have a very classic wooden coaster feel, something very classic and timeless. So right about here where this goes down, this drop that we're working on, or this little hop we're working on right now, will be a steel bridge that crosses the river itself. I have definitely something in mind for that. Hopefully it's something I can download from the SketchUp warehouse, because I don't feel like making that myself. And then there'll be a path up into the woods, or up to the station, because that's how I remember in my dream we entered. We were coming across the river on the bridge. The coaster, most of it was to the left. It went under the bridge, and it was just sort of bouncing around here. So doing my best to replicate that. So this is about the most we're going to do for now. In the next episode, we'll probably finish this up. I'm going to put one little quick bounce right there. We'll probably finish up this design, and then we'll go ahead and get started importing it into NoLimits. But that's going to be it for this episode. For now, we'll take a ride on this. I will talk to you next time. Take care and enjoy the ride.